This is Think Tech Hawaii. Community matters here.
Aloha. I'm Marcia Joyner, and this is The Ties That Bind. And today we have my new best friend. And as our audience knows, I only talk to my best friends. But this lovely lady is Representative Beth Fukumoto. And I have to tell you this is really special. This is new for me, anyway. A year after quitting the Republican Party, she joined the Democratic Party as a state rep, and now she is seeking a seat in the House of Representatives. She is going to leave Hawaii and go to the big time. All of this within a year. Well, welcome, Beth.
Thank you.
Welcome, and tell us all about Beth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What district do you live in?
I live in District 36, which is Mililani and Mililani-Mauka.
So, I'm a political junkie, as you may know. But what I don't understand is that I have seen so many smart, lovely, beautiful women in the Republican Party, and then they get pushed out. What happens? What is that about?
Yeah, there are a lot of things. You know, I think for me, because I've always been a moderate, there was definitely a philosophical issue. So as a Republican, I was considered a moderate, often labeled progressive. And I think even when we're seeing within the Democratic Party, there are many people way more conservative than I am. And I'm actually much further left than most.
Yes.
And so I think philosophically I wasn't fitting where I was. But I think a lot of women, especially women who are pro-choice in the Republican Party, have been pushed out over time. We've seen that happen.
We've seen it
in Hawaii,
here,
especially.
Here in Hawaii, how many really talented women, if they would keep them, the Republican Party could be something.
And it's usually women of color. That's one of the things that we've seen, especially it's specifically Japanese American women who just felt like there just wasn't a place for them, that the party didn't want them. And that's fair. Philosophically, I didn't fit, but I think my gender caused a problem for me in the party, as well as the fact that I was non-white, to be honest.
Even in Hawaii?
Even in Hawaii, which I think there's something, you know, there was something that I say all the time that happened to me in one of our caucus meetings. The Republicans had just lost big, and people were sitting around trying to figure out why. And I just openly said to them, the reason why is that none of you are identifying with local people. I grew up here. This is my culture. And you're having trouble identifying with me, and I'm sitting at the table with you. And somebody said to me, one of my colleagues said to me, listen, Beth, this is the party of Middle America. And it is our job to bring Middle American values to Hawaii. And I just said, oh my goodness, that's a very, very problematic statement, and this is why you lose, right?
Well, yes, and that is problematic because that is what they work so hard to get rid of with the Big Five.
Right.
And the plantation was exactly that.
Right.
And now to see it come back.
And it's still there. I went home and I was so frustrated by that conversation. I drove home and I sat with my dad, who is a Japanese American, sat down, and I said, they're racist. They're racist. People kept saying it to me, and I wasn't realizing it, and they're racist. And as I said it, my dad just nodded, and he was like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, you know, he had helped me in my races. He had helped with my campaigns, but I think he just, in his heart, also knew, you know, this wasn't the right place for me.
And that's too bad because, like I said, I am a political junkie, and I do believe in a two-party system.
Sure.
But this isn't working.
No.
And unless they reach, and every now and then they reach out, and I see these great women that come on board, and then pretty soon they're gone.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I used to say I believe in a two-party system, and of course I do, but I think more than anything else I believe in dialogue and diversity in the system, and I think we can do that within the Democratic Party too, right?
Well, now, of course, I'm considerably older than you are, and I remember when we did have a vibrant Republican Party, and that you could get along with each other. And they were friends. There was no animosity. They were just different.
Yeah.
And each district had a 2-member district, so you had voted
Right.
for the best person, and then you voted for your friend.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And
Right.
so there wasn't this nasty animosity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people have said that one of the worst things to happen to the Republican Party is multi-member districts going away.
Well,
Right?
but it was the Republican Party that
Oh, I know.
wanted it.
I know.
They're the ones that suggested we can
Right.
save money if we have
Oh,
a
it's a
single
good
member.
example of Republicans shooting themselves in the foot here in Hawaii.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, this is the unintended
It happens,
consequence.
yeah.
Yes. So now that you are settled into the Democratic Party, and you're right, there are some people in the Democratic Party, and I won't mention names, but you can tell by their voting record that this is not the place to be. That the only reason they're there is because with the D you win.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I have seen a lot of them.
Right.
I hate to
Oh,
say
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say go away, but the only way we have a strong 2-party system is if they belong to the party and they work to make it stronger.
Right.
But, okay. So now, what I remember is that you were, like the rest of us, a part of the Women's March in January. And then you were not very kind to Mr. Trump.
Right.
And I don't think that went over well
Oh.
with your fellow.
It did not. No. They shouldn't have been surprised, though. I had not hidden that opinion for a full year at that point. And they shouldn't have been surprised. But I guess he was the president at that point, so apparently I was supposed to fall in line.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know. I've known Gene Ward forever,
Oh.
and even I had trouble talking to him at that point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So now tell us, you have decided to run for Congress.
Yeah.
Now the people in your district, for anybody that doesn't know, when Beth decided to change parties to be a Democrat, you polled your constituents.
Yes.
And what was the response?
About 70% of people said that they didn't care which party I was in or that they wanted to see me switch. The majority actually just said they didn't care. And, the other 30% did not want me to switch, of the people that responded. So we got about 500 responses.
Oh, very good.
That's good. Yeah.
That's very good. How many people are in the district?
The voter count
The voters.
is about 11,000. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
500 was a great sample.
Yes.
And you figure the people that didn't respond probably fall more into the camp of it didn't really matter to them.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Most of them, they're surprised that they even know your name.
Yeah, and I mean, Mililani is a great place to represent. There's one place to sign wave, and that's it. People are coming in and out that way, so you get good name ID very quickly. I've been door to door so many times. Like, they've seen my face so many times. They do know me, and I think that's part of why the response was just, it doesn't matter to us which party you're in. You know, they know me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about me. While you were in the House?
Yeah. So when I first ran for office, I had actually gotten back from graduate school in 2008. I came back to Hawaii to save up. I wanted to go get my PhD or law degree eventually. Came back to Hawaii, though, because it was the recession. Wanted to find a job, so I did. And the only place I could find a job was at the legislature. And so I started working for the House minority at the time. I knew so little about politics that I didn't know that meant Republicans even. I just needed a job. So I got in. But when I was there, I just felt like there wasn't enough progress being made for people like me, right? My student loans were so high. I couldn't move out of my parents' house. My parents were struggling to get by too. And I just looked at the legislature and said, you guys are fighting about small things when Hawaii is facing these big issues and nobody's doing anything. And isn't this supposed to be what the Democratic Party is about? And if all of these things, if protecting corporate interests, and if only listening to Bishop Street is what the Democratic Party is about now, then I guess I'm a Republican. That was, my thought process. And maybe as a Republican, I can make a change for regular families and average families. So I tried really hard. That's why I got into politics. It's why I ran for office. I think I was able to get a lot of legislation moving. Some very progressive bills actually passed the legislature, but even then I looked at it and said, well, I think I'm actually passing Democratic bills, not really, things that would fit better in the Democratic Party.
But what, like what? Tell
So
us
one
about it.
example of the bills that one of the proudest ones for me was that I got coverage for women that wanted to get STD and HIV testing. So one of the things that was happening is that people that were grandfathered in and didn't have an Affordable Care Act appropriate plan couldn't get coverage for STD testing. So they were having to
Really?
pay out of pocket, yes. And so what my bill said is that insurance companies have to cover it, regardless in Hawaii. That's turning out to be a really great thing because now that we're looking at, the Trump administration possibly rolling back some of the requirements, Hawaii people will be covered because I passed this bill, which I just find so rewarding.
Yeah, well, it is, but I'm just
Yeah.
amazed that something as simple as a blood test would not be covered.
No, and it's out of pocket, and people were paying as much as, if you paid cash, you could maybe get it for $60.
But
who
something
has
as
that?
simple as a blood test.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm amazed.
Yep.
I am absolutely amazed.
Yep.
So, why would that be a Democrat or Republican issue?
It doesn't necessarily have to be. A lot of the supporters that came out for it, though, were the Planned Parenthood and the typical sort of Democratic Party supporters. It shouldn't be a partisan issue, but even within the Republican Party, people were like, "Why are you talking about STDs? Why aren't you talking about abstinence?" Or that sort of thing, right? The Republican Party has gotten very far to the right on a lot of these things.
I can understand, like, Gil Rivera. Now, I don't know
Okay.
if he's way to the right or whatnot, but he comes from a district of Mormons.
Correct.
So we understand, we can't blame him because that's in the district. Woodson, again, I don't agree with his votes, but that's the district he comes from. Those are the people that elect him. So we understand that's not a Democrat or Republican, that's his neighbor.
Right.
Those are the people that voted for him.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
but something as simple as a blood test, it kind of
Right.
blows me away.
Right. And I've had some issues like that too because I come from another district that's pretty socially conservative or can be. And so one of the examples that I always bring up, something that I've had to learn with time as a legislator, when we were talking about medical marijuana dispensaries, I felt really strongly like we needed to pass it. My district survey was coming in at 70% against it. And so I said, okay, maybe people need to understand the actual human interest here. And so I wrote a letter to the whole district talking about this little girl in the district that was having seizures, couldn't get access to medicinal marijuana, and she needed it. So I was able to turn the district. We polled again after that, and the district was 70% in favor because they were reading what I was writing.
And so many of your people that are in the military where it's no.
Right, and so making sure that they understand, I think it's our responsibility as legislators is to go back to voters with those tough issues and explain, no, this is why. Like maybe you didn't have all the information. This is why I believe this. Please be on my side. I'm going to vote yes. And that's what we should be doing. And I had to learn that with time.
Well, no, that's very good too.
Right.
That's a very good idea. I wish more legislators did that. The follow-up. I am voting, and this is why.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that is so good.
Yeah, because sometimes you come across things, and I didn't know this early on, but sometimes you come across things where your conscience is just different than that of your voters, and you have to go with your conscience. Like you have to go with what's right, but that doesn't mean that you don't answer to your voters too. And there's a way to negotiate that.
Yes. Now we need to take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, I want to talk about you going to Washington.
Okay.
Great. We'll be right back.
This is Think Tech Hawaii, raising public awareness.
You can be the greatest, you can be the best. You can be the King Kong banging on your chest. You can beat the world, you can beat the war. You could talk to God, go banging on his door. You can throw your hands up, you can beat the clock. make it. Just tell me you can find yourself. Standing in the Hall of Fame. And the world's gonna know your name.
Do you want to be cool like me? If so, watch my show on Tuesdays at 1 called Out of the Comfort Zone. I sang this song to you because I think you either are cool or have the potential to be seriously cool. And I want you to come watch my show where I bring in experts who talk all about easy strategies to be healthier, happier, build better relationships, and make your life a success. So come sit with the cool kids at Out of the Comfort Zone on Tuesdays at 1.
Hi, I'm back. I'm Marcia Joyner, and we are talking with Representative Beth Fukumoto. This charming young lady has decided to run for Congress. Do you really want to go to D.C.?
I do.
Cold, miserable weather.
I do. You know, I took my, and I've been thinking about Congress. And you always think about Congress. But for me, the decision came in because I was thinking, do I really want to go to D.C.? Like, this is such a mess, and politics is not getting better. And I was actually feeling really down about politics. I went to D.C. with my niece for the first time. She's 10. And we walked through Congress, we walked through, and I remember the magic of what D.C. can be.
Oh,
right?
That building, when you walk through it and you feel those doors, and you can hear your footsteps on that marble floor, it is mesmerizing, yes.
And more so just, it's, the building's great, like what it's about is great, but then just all of it, just that feeling of this is what Congress should be. This used to be about change. It used to be about doing what's best for the voters, not just fighting amongst ourselves. And gosh, I believe it can be that again. So that's why I want to go.
Good. So, and what do you have in mind? Now you're going to represent a little state, and we have less than 218 votes. How many Democrats do we have now?
Oh, I don't know the exact count.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully more in November.
More. Just to let you know that to get a bill on the floor, you need 218. That's the magic number, 218 people. The Democrats don't have 218, so they get nothing to the floor.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
As is 218 House members. So we're hoping that in November that number will change, so we can at least get something to the floor. So
I think it will, but
let's assume that you win, and we have that magic number of 218. What would you like to do? What is your vision? What would you like to say? I represent Hawaii, and this is what we want, we need, we should have.
Right. I would love to champion infrastructure reform and infrastructure funding. I think there are, and this could be like a 2-hour-long conversation, so I'll sum it up. There are all sorts of grants that are not being well utilized. The Trump administration is trying to shift some of that funding to different places that would not be promoting smart growth. So I specifically think that in Hawaii, what we really need is 3 or 4 different grant programs that already exist but are on the chopping block right now to make sure that those programs are better funded and concentrated in smart growth areas like along the rail line, along our urban corridor, making sure that we are able to build housing. Because for me, I think that is the crisis facing our state. It's something that we can address on all levels, but the federal government has a lot that it can do. And that's in terms of energy grants, that's different things to fix the grid, make sure people can have affordable energy, making sure that our sewers are running properly. All these things that are like not sexy to talk about, but at the same time, things that we really need.
Okay, now you are running from CD1.
Correct.
That is a Congressional District 1. Yes. Where is that?
So that is, if you imagine sort of a triangle, it takes in Ko'olina and Kapolei on one side, it takes in Hawaii Kai on the other side, and Mililani up at the top. So my entire district is within Congressional District 1.
So all of CD1 is Oahu?
Yeah, so I call it urban and suburban Honolulu.
Yeah. So CD2 would be
It's,
Rural Oahu and all the neighbor islands.
yeah, so it's the neighbor islands. It's
Oh, my
Kailua,
goodness.
Waimanalo.
Yes.
You know, all of those places.
All of those places.
Yeah.
It's so different.
Right. Right. It's very different, and there are very different needs. And that's one of the things when we talk about energy policy, and when I've been talking to DC groups, they say, like, what kinds of energy policies are you going to, or environmental policies do you want to champion? There are a lot. For me specifically, though, I think in this district, it's making sure we have clean water, making sure the sewers are cleaned up and are not going to impact clean water, making sure, like, smart growth, that we have alternative modes of transportation, bike paths, like, all that stuff are environmental issues, but that's the way to talk about it in CD1. And I think in CD2, it's a completely different way to talk about it.
What about the oceans? Is that part of your?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think we're all
I mean, in
concerned about
CD1,
that. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think we know if for no other reason, CD1, we have Waikiki. That's our big tourism driver in CD1. Ko'olina as well. Making sure that we continue to have clean oceans, making sure that we have a sustainable fishery, making sure that we're not, like I said, overfishing, treating the oceans poorly. Sea level rise is a big issue. You know, I recently heard that within the next 20 years, we're going to have huge flooding problems in downtown Honolulu, where we're hoping to have more growth, right, and housing.
Well, let me tell you where I live.
Okay.
When we moved in 1982, at high tide, the ducks would fly up to the seawall. Now, at high tide, the ducks walk into the yard. So that's how much it has risen in those years. So we can see sea rise.
Yeah, and that's something, you know, all the different things we're talking about, and that's such a national issue. It's a global issue. All of these agreements we're pulling out of, all the things that there's suddenly not a focus, right, with this administration on environmental policy, and we need to change that.
They
they're
just
repealing
pretend like it
everything.
doesn't exist. Since we only have 4 people in Congress, what can you do to see that we do get those monies, that Hawaii does get the money that you say we're entitled to, that is there, this grant monies? What do you do to make sure we get that?
I think there are a few things and a few reasons why I think I'm the best candidate for the race. I think one is that you have to be willing to be a workhorse, right? We know this is going to be likely the largest freshman class we've seen in decades, which means our new member is going to be amongst a lot of new members. And I think the one way to set yourself apart is to say, hey, listen, I don't care if I get the credit. Just let me work on this bill. And while I'll help you do it. Like, just talk to your chairs. That's how I've gotten things done at the legislature here. Talk to the chairs and just say, hey, you don't even have to say it was me. Just let me work on this language. And this is what's important for Hawaii. Let me slip it in. And advocating that way. And then I think there's also the argument that we need to start building seniority back. We used to have a lot of seniority, and we don't have that now.
Oh, that's right, we don't.
No, and you know, for me coming in, I would be 35. Dan Inouye was 35 when he got elected. Patsy Mink was 37. That's why they were able to build the seniority they were able to build and to make the change they needed to make, because you have to start really early and take all that time behind the scenes.
And all of those cold, miserable winters.
Right. And I'm willing to suck it up, you know, like I can stay, I'll bide my time, work behind the scenes. I don't need the attention. I just want to get things done. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And working with just 4 people, it's easy to have camaraderie. Are there any Republicans running for that office?
So far, unless things have changed in the last week, no, there are no Republicans running for the office. So the primary will be the election. Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
No, it's probably not great for democracy, but I do think that the debate is happening in the primary. So I do think voters have a bunch of different options. There is diversity. And hey, there's a really big spectrum here.
It is.
I think we have all points of view represented in this in this particular group of people running for the primary. And I think that if people actually look at my record and what I believe, I'm the strongest Democratic candidate that holds the strongest democratic values.
Wonderful. That is great. I'm impressed. But I still see that the Republicans lost you. That's Oh, well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that-
This is where
that
I
was-
belonged, though. So.
That was not smart.
Yeah.
So they, by not having a candidate, they've just abdicated.
Yeah, and I mean, they still have a week, right? So they'll probably come up with somebody, but I don't
When
think
is the
it'll be as
filing
strong.
deadline?
June 5th, next week.
Next week?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're all crossing our fingers for one more week. Nobody else gets in the
Nobody else
race.
gets in the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's enough people running for CD1. Other than me, everybody's running.
Right. There, I think we are at 5 now. And that's actually similar to 2014 as well. But yeah, there are 5 people. So.
Well, I am thoroughly impressed. And tell us a little bit more. We started talking about what you've done locally, the bills that you've worked on locally.
So for me, I've moved a lot of housing policy out of the State House, and it's not passed in the Senate for the most part. One of the bills that I'm actually most proud of, it's not necessarily housing policy, but we have real estate investment trusts in Hawaii and nationally are not taxed. So it's a loophole. It's largely corporations, owned by corporations. And it was originally supposed to be a way for regular people to own property. That's not the way it's been. Now it's the top 1% is investing in this and not paying any tax. In Hawaii, 98% of those investors are out of state, so we don't even get that money through income taxes. And so what I tried to do is close that loophole. I took a couple of different shots at it, and it kept dying in the Senate, in the all-Democratic Senate. I feel like I have to keep pointing that out because this is a Senate that should have been in favor of, let's
Well, who are they
tax.
owned by?
But who are they owned by? Who are they taking money from? And you know, and I've said that about some of my opponents in the race too. You know, why do they keep killing these bills that would help local people, help keep taxes in Hawaii, make sure that out-of-state investors that are wealthy are going to be the ones paying for some of these infrastructure projects and affordable housing projects that we desperately need.
We do. We
Yeah.
desperately need housing.
Yeah.
That's the reason that we have homeless people.
Right.
You can't make $10 an hour
Right.
and pay $1,800 a month rent. You just can't.
Right. And I've been in favor of minimum wage increases and a lot of the other programs, but at the end of the day, if we fix our housing crisis, we will fix so much.
Oh, we will. We will.
Yeah.
Well, my dear, this has been a real pleasure with you.
Thank you.
And after you win, you'll come back and talk to us again, will you?
Of course, yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And aloha, and we'll see you next time.